Madam Chair and members of the State Board of Education, thank you for holding this public hearing today. Thank you for recognizing that the people of Texas stand strong for the children of this state. My name is Janice O. I have come to speak to you from Allen, Texas, just north of Dallas. America is unique throughout the history of mankind. Freedom is the anomaly. Oppression is the norm. Our nation must be preserved according to the Constitution of the United States and constitutional law. Our students must be taught what our founding fathers believed in, which is written in the Constitution. They must develop an appreciation for our form of government and that offers citizens and immigrants alike freedom. Kudos to those who stand for traditional freedoms for America. Our world is changing, however, and we must also prepare them for these changes. I call your attention to today's agenda, page 7. This is 113.35, United States Government 12A. It compares the United States Constitutional Republic to other forms of government. Texas public schools pride themselves on preparing the students for the future. We would do these students a devastating disservice not to prepare them for the difficulties that they face. I respectfully request that the truth about another form of government be added to this list, Islamic totalitarianism. It is the form of government as dictated by Islamic law, also known as Sharia law. In Islam, there is no difference between religion and government because the God of the Quran orders the people to live under Islamic law. Our students must be educated on the facts about Islam. The students need to know that the God of the Quran, Allah, is not the Christian God because the Quran says Jesus was only a prophet who married and had children. The students need to know that according to the God of the Quran, infidels are they that say God is the Messiah. Due to immigration and high birth rate of European Muslims, the European Union could cease to exist as we know it, and within these students' lifetimes, it could be an Islamic state. The students must be wise and have a full understanding of this form of government while treasuring our own. They must understand the long-term goals of the God of the Quran. Europe could be lost to Islam without one shot being fired. Without this understanding, the study of these forms of government is incomplete. Without this understanding, Texas school children will be ignorant of the ideology within the Islamic states of the global world we live in. Islam totalitarianism is a lethal ideology calling for holy war against infidels. Texas students should have a true and full understanding of this type of government and its influence on world affairs. Texas public school books should not contain misinformation, but instead facts. In regards to Islam, for example, when the various religious holidays are taught in Texas school books, the Islamic holy day of Ramadan is mentioned, but not explained in truth. The God of the Quran orders Muslims to kill infidels after the holy month. Islamic scholars have their own agenda. Let me summarize. Again, Texas students need to be taught the basic fundamentals upon which our country is founded and taught the facts about Islam and Sharia law. Islam is not a religion, it is a political ideology, and the children that are educated today in the public school system could face an Islamic Europe within their lifetimes that is nuclear armed. Thank you for hearing me today.
Are there any questions for Ms. Zettel? Thank you very much.
Gary Bledsoe, Richard Owen, Rashid Utada.
Good afternoon. I have Gary Bledsoe's testimony. I'm not Gary Bledsoe. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it due to scheduling, but I do have his testimony. My name is Giannis Banks. To the members of the State Board of Education, I want to thank each of you for your service to our state, while at the same time, I must request that you engage in serious revision to the proposals you are considering, especially those regarding social studies. Here are some observations I have in regards to what is being proposed. 1, it appears that there is a desire to not have an honest discussion of America and the history of race. There appears to be a desire not to address the issue of slavery directly, and it appears that African Americans are an afterthought. It seems that in the majority of instances, when you identify different races of cultures of ethnic groups under a specific topic, the examples that are given do not include African Americans. Of course, one could read the broader language and expect that Of course, one could read the broader language and expect that we would be honestly included, but I think with our history in this state, nothing should be left to question. Further, in discussing the issues of minorities or race, it is important that these matters be discussed honestly. Though some may have good intentions and others bad, and making recommendations that put a smiling face on slavery, Jim Crow, ethnocentrism, and racism, we know that the truth is completely different, and the only way we can avoid a repeat of the past is to have a reminder of the future. In our nation, I feel that racism is on the rise again, as evidenced by the incredible increase in the numbers of both hate groups and members of hate groups, as evidenced by the Southern Poverty Law Center. We do not know what the future holds, but it's extremely important that this issue be discussed honestly to help ensure that to the extent possible we can stem the tide of racism, the rise of racism.
Violate the First Amendment. In other words, I take it very seriously, and I'm a person that has already filed federal lawsuits, and one of them was against Governor Rick Perry, who was involved in something called the Texas Restoration Project that had nothing to do with building buildings. It has to do with Christian restorationism, more or less in the Holy Land, as a crusade. And it was popularized before Texas in Ohio, called the Ohio Restoration Project, and they played a very crucial role in federal elections, in electing George Bush as president, for instance. And certainly, Mr. Perry thinks that that was appropriate for him to, get involved in that restoration project here, and similarly try to influence the legislation. So my point would be that we want to look at Native Americans, African Americans who were kidnapped and brought here against their will, Muslim Americans, many other people. And I am very concerned that we would use education to indoctrinate or brainwash instead of, for the purpose that it was here for, is to actually allow all children their First Amendment. And I'm very concerned that in this state that we claim to be the envy of the world, that we have the highest childhood poverty rates, and we execute more people than any other state.
Are there any questions for Mr. Smith?